Space is not infinite, at least when it comes to infrastructure. Denver is planning its budget for next year, and the department responsible for bike lanes was asked by City Council to explain why it doesn't build more protected lanes for cyclists. The answer? Space. Our Marshall Zollinger is showing us the different options for safe cycling in limited space.
We've done a lot of stories about bike lanes on Next. We're going to start this one by showing you the different versions of bikeways in the city so you can visualize the difference from one to another. For starters, this is simply a bike lane. A buffered bike lane looks similar. Painted stripes on the road separate traffic from the cyclist. A protected bike lane adds a physical barrier separating cyclists from cars. Then there are the shared street arrows, the sharrows. Cars and bikes using the same lanes. We're going to focus on protected bike lanes because in a Denver City Council hearing about next year's budget for each department, Council President Stacey Gilmore asked the interim head of the city's Department of Transportation why the city does not focus on protected bike lanes over the other options.
Where it is cost prohibitive to do that, where we would have to do a property take and reduce our housing inventory to do that, we then look at alternatives.
I checked with the city, and eminent domain, government taking property or a home, has never been used to build an on-street bike lane. The city has used eminent domain for lanes for cars and traffic signal improvements. A spokeswoman for the city's transportation department said in an email that the interim director's point was that the city needs to work within the right-of-way between a street's two curbs.
It was pretty telling that his first reaction was that, well, there's no room for bikes since we have all these other travel lanes and parking, that the only option would be to remove houses to build more protected bike lanes, and that's just not true.
Molly McKinley is with the Denver Streets Partnership, which focuses on biking, walking, and transit. She points out major roads like Broadway take up a large area for cars and limited space for alternatives.
That's a reflection of what we value as a city right now. It's moving vehicles, and if we're going to shift our values, we need to shift how we allocate that right of way.
Denver ranks the different bikeway options that I showed you on a level of comfort. Regular bike lanes rank the lowest comfort level, then those buffered, the stripes in between the bike lane and the traffic. Then it's the protected bike lane. We're getting to the higher comfort level. It also lists sharrows as toward the highest comfort level, and then ultimately a trail with no cars. But Anusha, the sharrows, depending on your perspective, and I'll tell you as an amateur cyclist, sharing the lane with the car is not a high comfort level for me.
Sure.
I would put that closer toward the low end.
Okay, so I'm just thinking walking around downtown Denver, along Broadway, all these areas, right? You see a lot of pavement, you see a lot of sidewalk. There's really not enough space to do all of this?
Well, the cycling community would say, look at Broadway, for example, and there's a stretch where there's like 3 or 4 lanes of traffic, a bus lane, and they like to call it car storage, where you park. Of all that concrete, really, you can't turn something into a bike lane, and the city will take into account traffic flows, how it impacts the neighborhood, how it impacts traffic elsewhere if you convert something. So, I mean, there is an equation to it, but there are certain parts of the city where you look and it's like, wait, space is the problem here?
Yeah, all right. Well, very interesting. Thank you so much, Marshall.